Hey everybody, Rust Quick Electric here with you today after a long hiatus. In the meanwhile, I finished my degree, got that, fully approved and everything, so that's exciting. And I also did some soul searching with Rust in the community as well as the electricity aspect of the game. I began to play several wipes with several other good friends, had tons of fun, and came to realize that I wanted to focus more on practical electricity within the game. And now one of the biggest things that I reached mid to end wipe was the idea of having a SAM site, which is, as I'm sure many of you know, absolutely necessary if you're with a larger group to prevent people from flying up on your base. But the issue lies in that it is a pain in the butt to take your own minicopter in and out of your base. Yes, you could disable it. Yes, you could turn it back on. Yes, if you have other people in your base, you could turn it on and off as needed. But what I wanted was a unique way, without losing a pager to the enemy, to have a sort of entrance-exit plan, which brought about this idea of having a sentry tower, or a SAM tower. Now, the use of this basically is you create a very cheap but efficient beacon tower that uses the HBHF sensor as a flyby location so that you can timer toggle it off while you're leaving your base, which is over there in the distance, and then have a flyby point, whereas as you do a pass-by of the tower, you will then begin a timer that disables your SAM site for your set amount of time as you come back in and land on top of your base. So we're going to go ahead and get started with this build, and we're going to begin with the tower setup. As you'll see, I try to pick a very high point on the map that is within a 1 square range of your base. Now, the SAM site works at about a 1 square range, so as long as you are outside of where the base location is, approximately 1 square wide, it will not shoot you as you approach your beacon tower. You'll see that sort of just a foundation, a door TC, stairwell up, and then another door out. You can do the wiring inside of it, which is the point of the tower, but for sake of this video, I'm going to do it outside. You'll see that I've already started with 2 solar panels facing both east and west, connected to a root combiner. We're going to need 3 branches, 1 blocker, 1 ore, 1 RF broadcaster, 1 HBHF, and 1 siren light for convenience of seeing it at night. Now what we're going to do is we're going to place our first branch here, and we're going to go ahead and wire the root combiner, combined power output, into this. And I'm doing it on the side of the wall here just for visual use. Keep it a little bit more clean and neat. We're next going to follow up with our battery setup, and I did forget the battery. So you will use a small battery for this build. The reason being that it holds a 15-minute charge, being night, and it will always run. We're going to use a charging while draining setup so that it is running at all times, all day, all night. The battery holds 15-minute charge, so there should be no overlapping with the amount of drain it does. I've tested it multiple nights, and it seems to have no problem at all. So we're going to start by setting our initial branch to a branch off power of 5. We're going to have the battery set up here with another branch and the blocker. The power out of this first branch is going to come down and into our branch for the power setup. This is going to be set to the default of 2. We're going to have the branch out come across and over into the block pass-through. We're going to have the power out of this come into the blue node of this battery, which is the power in. We're going to have the power output of the battery come into the blocker, power in. And then we're going to progress into the OR switch. Now, the point of this OR switch is to allow draining from the panels during the day and draining from the battery at night, while still charging the battery. So we're going to have the power out of our blocker come over here into input A. Get that to line up. And then the input B of the OR switch is going to come from the other slot of this initial branch coming from the root combiner, like so. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go up to the roof. We're going to have the HBHF placed directly from the roof looking up, because as we fly over, we want this to detect us as an authorized TC user and emit the signal. So we're going to place a branch here now to make wiring this a little bit easier. The power in of the branch is going to come from the ore. Now that we're wired, we can proceed back up. We're going to go ahead and place the siren light as well as the broadcaster. This is going to be set to an amount of 2. We're going to have the branch out of this go into our HBHF. And yes, it does matter. I have people message me all the time saying, hey, I wired it exactly as the schematic was done, and it does not work. 9 out of 10 times when I hop on a server with them to help them, it is because they are not paying attention to what they are wiring the branch out to and the power out to. So make sure you pay attention to that. We're then going to wire the power out to the siren light. Like so. The power out of the HBHF will be going into the broadcaster. And you'll see that it's already toggling with me here because the HBHF is set to the authorized user of a TC. And we'll go over these again. We want to exclude others. So now others are excluded, but we want to include authorized. So as with any HBHF video, it's counterintuitive because looking at this, you would think that it's excluding authorized. But the thing is that if I were to click this, it would exclude authorized. So it is currently including authorized, and it is currently excluding others. So this portion of the build is complete. You'll see that during the daytime, the battery is charging while the top devices are still draining power appropriately. So let's move on to the second part of the build. The second part of the build, as shown in the schematic, we're going to begin the roof setup portion, which is much easier. We're going to need a splitter, RF receiver, timer, and a blocker. And you'll see that I've already got set up a wind turbine and a SAM site, which are essential to any mid to late game for a large base. We're going to start by setting up the frequency here, and we're going to set it to 1111, and we want to make sure that the other one, the broadcaster, is set to the same as whatever you have your receiver set to, 1111. Obviously you can set it to whatever you'd like, but for sake of this example, I'll be using 1111. We're going to have the splitter set up, and you'll see that I have this little half wall here, because you cannot place some of these components on the floor, otherwise I would, so just a little half wall makes do. We will have the blocker, and we will have the timer. Now first things first, we're going to wire the power in to the wind turbine of the splitter. Try to make this a little bit neat. We're then going to have the power output 1 of this heading into the receiver, like so. We will have the power out of this heading into the toggle of the timer, because as it receives that signal, we'd like for it to start a timed block of the SAM site, like so. We're going to have the power out 2 of this head on into the timer, and the power out 3 heading into the blocker. We will have the timer output go into the block pass-through. We can get it to show up. There we go. And we're going to finally have the power out here come across into the SAM site. And that is the power out of the blocker. Like so. Now you'll see that this is currently powered, loaded with fuel and everything. We're going to have this come across. We're going to set our timer. Now I found 45 seconds to be perfectly fine for me. Well adapt with flying, gives me enough time to get in and out while keeping the window short for other people to enter. For starter's sake, I'd always say start with a minute and then go from there. And then it's as simple as when you activate this, it will block for 60 seconds, currently pausing the SAM site, allowing you to take off and leave, and then it will auto restart the SAM site after 60 seconds. Then once you're making your return flight back home from wherever you are, you're going to make sure that you have a flight path staying within a square, outside of a square radius of your main base, coming by your flight beacon right here, and you'll hear it as you pass. You hear that noise, you know that you've toggled it, and you now have 1 minute to return, land and exit the vehicle before that SAM site goes, and you'll see that the timer is activated and is going from this receiver. As with any video, I welcome you guys to join our Discord, link in the description, and I thank you guys as we recently passed 2,000 subscribers. I hope to be uploading more content more frequently now that I'm done with my schooling, and I hope to see you guys soon and in servers. Thanks!